The Sacrificial System, another topic in our course on the Pentateuch. A sacrificial system in the book of Leviticus is aimed to enable the sinful people to live close to the Holy One of Israel. Different sacrifices prescribed by Moses address different facets of human wrongdoing. The most important are the sacrifices presented on the Day of Atonement. Regulations concerning the offering of sacrifices in Leviticus chapter 1 to 7 are placed between Exodus chapter 40, when God came to dwell in the temple, and Leviticus chapter 8 to 9, where we have the story of the consecration of the priests. The sacrifices are central to Israel's relationship with God. The priest's duty is to oversee the offering of the sacrifices. General pattern of animal sacrifices. There is the action of the worshipper and the action of the priest. The layperson's action are: 1. Bringing the animal to the tabernacle courtyard. 2. Laying a hand on the animal's hand, a symbol of ownership, of identification. If 2 hands are placed on the animal, there it signifies transference of sin. And finally, there is the slaughtering of the animal. The priest's action collects the blood from the animal and sprinkles the bronze altar. The whole animal or part of it is placed on the altar to be consumed by fire, and both priests or the Israelites, the lay people, eat the meat that is not burned up. There are 5 types of sacrifices. The first one, the burnt offering. This is the most important one, intended to gain divine favor. A costly animal was used in this sacrifice, but the poor could offer less, for example, a dove. The entire animal was burned upon the altar. The animal offered as a burnt offering is presented as an alternative to death penalty imposed by God for human sin. By paying this ransom, in quotation, the worshipper appeases God's righteous anger against his or her own sin and uncleanness. It restores the broken relationship between God and humans. And this type of sacrifice is often used in establishing covenants. The grain offering. This is the only one that does not involve animals. Fine flour is usually offered. Part of it is burned, the rest of it is given to the priests. It is viewed as a gift to God in recognition of his divine sovereignty. The priests receive it as God's representative. Peace offering. Certain portion of this sacrifice is set apart for God. Kidneys and liver is burned on the altar. Certain portion is for the priests. The right thigh for the officiating priest, and the breast is shared among the other priests. But most of the meat from the sacrificial animal is retained by the worshipper for a festive meal. The peace offering can express thankfulness, fulfill a vow, serve as a free will offering. The peace offering acknowledges God as the source of true peace, sacrifice of well-being. The purification offering. The blood of animal is used to cleanse sacred items within the tabernacle. If the anointed priest or the whole community sinned, the blood is placed on the horns of the golden incense altar in the holy place. If a leader commits sin, the blood is put on the horns of the bronze altar in the courtyard. This offering is also known as sin offering. Since the blood is placed on the altar and not on the person who committed sin, it indicates that the pollution being caused by the sinner is cleansed, but not the sinner himself. When blood is placed on the people, like in Exodus 24 or in Leviticus 8:2, they are being cleansed and sanctified. The reparation offering, the last one among those 5 sacrifices. An animal without defect is offered, its blood is sprinkled against the altar, the fatty portion is burned upon the altar, the rest of the animal is given to the priests, they alone can eat that meat. This sacrifice is probably intended to compensate God for wrongs committed against him. So all those sacrifices seek to restore humans to a harmonious relationship with God. The Day of Atonement. The parts of a ritual during that celebration. First, there is the purification of the sanctuary. Second, there is the rite of sending away the scapegoat. And third, there is the presentation of 2 burnt offerings. So the first part of the ritual, purification of the sanctuary. The high priest enters the Holy of Holies, sprinkles blood on and before the cover of the Ark of the Covenant, cleansing it and the Holy of Holies from pollution caused by sin. This is done twice. On the first occasion, a bull is sacrificed as a purification offering. Its blood atones for the sins of the high priest and his family. On the second occasion, one of 2 male goats is sacrificed. Its blood atones for the sins of the whole community of Israel. The remains of the bull and the goat are taken outside the camp and burnt. The man who did it washes himself before coming back to the camp. The second part of the ritual is sending away the scapegoat. The high priest places both hands upon this animal and confesses over it all the sins of Israel. Then the scapegoat is led into a desert and set free there. The man who led that goat there washes himself before coming to the camp. And finally, the last part of this ritual is the burnt offering. A ram is provided by the high priest and another ram is provided by the Israelites. Both rams are offered as atonement for sins. The Day of Atonement, known as Yom Kippur, was and remains probably the most important feast in Jewish liturgical calendar. What are the New Testament connections? Jesus' death is understood as a unique sacrifice offered by a unique high priest. Jesus Christ as a sacrifice. In 1 Peter chapter 1, 18-20, we read, "You were ransomed from the futile ways inherited from your forefathers, not with perishable things, such as silver or gold, but with the precious blood of Christ, like that of a lamb without blemish or spot." In John 1:29, we hear the famous statement of John the Baptist pointing to Jesus, "This is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." Jesus' sacrifice is the sacrifice of atonement to do away with sin. Christ's death on the cross was the ultimate sacrifice that ended all the sacrifices of the Old Testament. Jesus as high priest. Jesus is high priest, but not in the order of Aaron, but in the order of Melchizedek. Unlike other high priests, Jesus alone is blameless. Moreover, while Aaron was serving in the copy of a true sanctuary, Jesus is serving in the real one, in the heavenly one. The Aaronic high priest each year on the Day of Atonement had to purify the earthly tabernacle. Jesus purified the heavenly temple once and for all. Moreover, Jesus is always in the heavenly temple to intercede for us. Jesus also established a new priesthood, and so the Levitical priesthood and its regulations are over. In conclusion, we can say, motivated by love, God provides the sacrifice necessary to meet the demands of His own justice.